Now, the short story A Rose for Emily also has in it a mystery story. We have clues in the story, and if we go back and take those clues and put them together ourselves, we can understand what happened in the background, the things that the townspeople didn't understand, but they could have if they'd wanted to, because they've got all of the same information that we're given in the story. So let's think about that. What I'd like for you to do is to try to create for yourselves here a mental timeline of what happens in A Rose for Emily. Okay, creating the timeline in A Rose for Emily. The first thing that we know is that as a young woman, Emily Grierson was raised by a very strict Southern father. But when her father died, Miss Emily was reluctant to let go of his body for several days before she would let the mortician take him, as though she was hanging on to something of the past. Just as we see she hangs on to something later, and just as the townspeople are hanging on to this image of her as the refined Southern lady. Okay, that's the first thing. What's the next thing? The second thing is that Miss Emily apparently falls in love with this Yankee, Homer Behrens, a real man's man, a sport, a gambler, someone who likes to hang out with the boys. And Miss Emily apparently falls for him, even though the townspeople, and more especially her relatives, come to town, and they don't like Homer Behrens at all. But she doesn't let go of him. Okay, let's ask ourselves, what's the next thing that occurs in the story? Well, what we know perfectly well happens, and so do the townspeople, is that Miss Emily goes to the drugstore and asks to buy some poison. When the druggist asks what it's for, she doesn't reply, and so he simply writes down for rats. Well, in a way, it's for rats. Well, the next thing that happens is Homer Behrens is seen entering her house, and he's never seen again. The next thing, some time later, not that long, there's a smell around the house. And some of the townspeople say, well, she must have killed a rat or something and has died under the porch. But they won't go and see her. The town council says, damn it, sir, are you going to tell a lady that she smells bad? And so they don't go and see her. Over the years, they send her tax notices, which she refuses to respond to. She says she has some arrangement with the town through her father that she owes no taxes. And the town council go along with it. The younger ones, who represent the younger South, the New South, say they ought to collect the taxes, but the old ones, well, they just don't have the nerve. At one point, even the town council sneaks up to her house to see what's going on. For example, about that smell, and they see her up in the upper window like an idol up there. It says, and they slink away. All right, what happens next? Well, Miss Emily grows older. She gives china painting lessons. Now, what happens at the very end of the story is something that I hope that you can figure out. That's what I'm asking you to do, is to put these pieces of evidence together so that we can come to our own epiphany, our realization, just like the townspeople had too. But what did happen there at the end? Miss Emily dies, the cousins come, the funeral's held on the second day. Some of the very old men are in their brushed Confederate uniforms, are there for the funeral, and they talk about Miss Emily as though she was a contemporary of theirs and someone that they had danced with in the long ago. But it's a while before they get up the nerve to go up the stairs to that room at the top. Because I think they know something is up there, don't they? They say that no one has been in that room for 40 years. And when the room is broken into, there's a thin, acrid pall of dust over everything. There's the hairbrushes with the HB initials on them. Homer Behrens? Most likely. The man himself lay in the bed, it said, in the attitude of an embrace, as though death itself had cuckolded him. He's in a nightshirt. Then we get the final detail that on the indent of the pillow beside his head we find an iron gray hair. Well, if the room has been empty for 40 years, then how did this iron gray hair get there? So what I'm asking you to do to figure out are two things, really. One is, what happened at that final night when Homer Behrens disappeared? Can you piece that together? And also, what is it that this iron gray hair does to our Epiphany? Well, fairly obviously, the image of the townspeople changes with this final discovery. But it's things they really kind of knew all the time. And what is it that they've discovered? Perhaps their realization is that, like Miss Emily, they've been holding on to something long after they should, just as she did with the father, just as she did with Homer Behrens, and maybe just as they did with their image of this fine old Southern lady. And everything that she represents. After all, it was her father who put out the edict that, quote, no Negro woman should appear on the streets without an apron. Well, that's certainly not the kind of tradition that we would really want people to hold on to. So maybe all of this represents the letting go, a realization that it's time to let go of something that's got something rotten and wrong about it. So at the end, I'm really asking for you to figure out what is the epiphany of the story. What is it that not only the townspeople, but that we as readers come to realize? What is it that it's really best to let go of, perhaps? This is also true, of course, of the poem Richard Cory. Should that townsperson keep his image of the young man, the wealthy young man who wants for nothing? What is his epiphany? And maybe it's a realization that we might have ourselves. Okay? Well, that's what I'm hoping for anyway.